So, Brandon, I'm here at the 2025 Orange Beach mayoral debate. Let's see what this says. Come join us at the Orange Beach Event Center Tuesday, August 12th, 2025 for the Orange Beach mayor debate between Tony Kennedy, the incumbent mayor, and Jeff Boyd, current city councilman and mayor pro tem. Brian Dawson, CEO of 1819 News, will MC the event, and Jeff Port, editor-in-chief of 1819, will moderate the 60-minute debate. Meet and greet starts at 5:30, main event at 7. General admission are free, limit 2 tickets per registrant, only 12 seats remaining. Those have all sold out. So here I am, and we've got some freebies for the participants. I don't think you've seen this yet, Brandon. Can you make that out?
Yeah, I can see the shirt.
Yeah. And see the front is a question for everybody in Orange Beach, not just the mayor, but about Danny Williams and how the investigation was handled. We have 100 T-shirts to give away while we're here.
Yeah,
So anyway,
do not drown in Orange Beach.
well, so it's kind of funny. I'm going to move the camera around a little bit so you can see what I'm talking about. So we're sitting here. Hey, Rue. So we're sitting here under a palm tree, right? And there's a Marriott right here and a boat shop right here. And of course, the wharf is over here behind us with the big AMC theater, and then Rue's running all around the parking lot. But yeah, I guess there's worse places to have to live stream from. Oh, I got a little surprise for you, Brandon. We now have merch. Of course, they're free, but yeah, we have merch. We're not making any money off of it. Hey, we got merch, man. We're legit podcasters now. So anyway, they're not going to let me take a mic in because 1819 has rented the venue and this is their event. Have you ever heard of that? I mean, it was general admission, free. I think there's going to be food and stuff, but they don't want anybody else from the media here. And I'm just going to be a fly on the wall. I'll give you a full report when we do our podcast on Friday.
That will work.
Sound good to you, man?
Yeah.
Oh, it sounds good to Rue. Rue likes it. What do you think, Mr. Rue? Come here. Up. Yeah, he likes it. All right. Thanks, Brandon.
No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed are greater than the legal services of other lawyers. I'm Harry Steele. You found the backstory. Sorry, Heart of Dixie podcast, number 21. That was our old podcast, Brandon. You're supposed to keep me straight on that. Today we're joined by Brandon Mosley, reporter, content manager, Auburn alumni with 7 additional Pulitzer Prizes now. And also Justice Chris McCool, Republican from Pickens County. Did I get that right, Justice?
Yes, sir. You sure did.
And Alabama Supreme Court Associate Justice. So we're looking here at Pickens County. So
Yep.
I guess you're just west of Tuscaloosa. Am I right in my geography?
That's correct. That's right. We're between Tuscaloosa and the Mississippi line. I tell people that, and I have a Gordo address. Gordo is the closest town. I live about 10 miles north of Gordo, out in the country in the Zion community. But, Gordo and Reform are the towns you have to get through on Highway 82 if you're going from Tuscaloosa to Starkville, Mississippi. So, and we're actually about halfway between Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and Columbus, Mississippi. So we're right in the West. We call ourselves West Alabama.
All right. And it says here that you graduated from Pickens Academy valedictorian. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Is that
Yes, sir.
is it like where Brandon went to school where there's like 8 people there?
There's like there were about 35 in our class, so that's we were small.
Hey, I was
small
33
school.
out of 350. How about that? I was in the top 10%.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Yes, sir.
So then Alabama Law in 93 and Alabama
Yes, sir.
Law Review.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All
I
right.
served on the Alabama Law Review. You may remember, you may know Paul DeMarco. Paul is, he was a former state legislator. He was actually the editor in chief of the Law Review the year I was on it. The 2 years I was on it, actually. So,
Yeah, Paul submits columns to the Gazette a couple times a month.
okay. Yeah.
So tell us about your it says here you were a assistant district attorney and you practiced in private practice and then you went to the Alabama Court of Appeals. Is that right?
Court of Criminal Appeals. That's
Court of
right.
Criminal Appeals.
So I started out as an attorney practicing law in Gordo. There was one lawyer in Gordo, Mr. C.O. Burkhalter, and Mr. C.O. was probably in his late 60s, early 70s when I went to work for him in 1993. I started out when I went to University of Alabama in 85. I graduated high school in 85 and went to the university. I thought I was going to go and be a doctor. That's kind of what I had thought in my mind I wanted to do, but I hated chemistry. So okay, no sciences. So, well, maybe business. So in my sophomore year, I decided to take accounting. I hated accounting. So what I realized is that what I loved was history. And so I stayed with history. And I actually, in my third year, my junior year, I actually took 5 years of undergrad. I decided that, I had to take a foreign language and I took Greek and I loved it. So I ended up getting a double major in history. And you couldn't major in Greek, but you could major in classics with a concentration in either Greek or Latin. So I got a double major in classics with a concentration in Greek, and took 5 year route, but I was able to graduate there, and then went to the University of Alabama Law School. Still thinking, and I grew up on another thing I didn't tell you. I grew up on a farm, which is the place where I still live. And even though I thought I wanted to be a doctor, then I said, well, I'll go to law school. I kind of had in the back of my mind what I'd really do is come back and farm. And I kept that thinking through about my second year of law school. But between my second and third year of law school, I went to work for Mr. Burkhalter in Gordo. And I fell in love with the country practice of law. And so I went back and worked for him for a couple of years after that. And then the DA, Mr. Pep Johnston, asked me if I wanted to come on and start prosecuting. And so I became the first full-time assistant DA in Pickens County, and then worked for him for 6.5 years, became district attorney, was district attorney for nearly 18 years, ran for the Court of Criminal Appeals in 2018 and won, and then ran unopposed for a open seat on the Supreme Court in 24 and took office in January. So that's sort of the career path I took.
So do you know, was Judge Welch on there with you?
For about 2 months.
Okay, so he was my judge. So I was a county administrator in my previous life, and he was my circuit judge in Connecticut County. And then of course, Judge Wyndham, or as we know her, Mary Edna Becker, is from my hometown. So I'm from.
I didn't realize that.
Okay, yes, sir. So,
okay.
Anyway, she was the chamber executive when I was in high school. And then,
I see.
And then
okay.
She married Steve and went off and got a law degree. It was kind of weird.
Right.
So
she was a presiding judge for the years I was on the Court of Criminal Appeals. So, and she did a great job.
Yes, sir. So, what I wanted to talk, I know we can't talk about specific cases, and
right.
I didn't protect you with I don't know what the canons of judicial ethics that we need to go over before you start talking.
Sure.
But, I just thought we'd talk a bit about the Fourth Amendment and the protection against unreasonable searches and seizures in the digital age. Because if anybody who's ever watched Columbo or any of these other old movies, they'd say, we'd find somebody dead in Hollywood and they'd turn to their partner and say, it's dragnet, and they say, get their LUDs, right? And that meant their phone records who were held by a third party. And now it says everything under the sun is held by a third party, and nothing is privately mined because it's on my phone, and it is also in Scotland and in wherever that database is, right?
Yeah.
So,
right. That's right.
So how do we split this hair and protect people's, especially biometric information? I don't know if you remember. The only good thing Bill Clinton ever did, they passed a law that said you couldn't get somebody's genetic information and base their health insurance off of it. So, quite separately, I think we need to try to do something to protect people's electronic information that may happen to be online.
Well, okay. So first of all, I'll give you my disclaimer because you mentioned the canons of judicial ethics. So just keep in mind, anything I say here, I can't comment obviously on specific cases. I can't give some kind of preview of this is how I would rule in a case. So I don't want anything I say to be taken in that regard for anybody who's listening. I'm not saying this is what I think we need to do or the direction we need to go. As a judge or justice, we need to be, we call balls and strikes. We don't go in there and enact public policy. Okay. Having said all that, everything you mentioned is absolutely a concern, and it implicates the Fourth Amendment to a great extent. I don't think the state of the law is very settled at this point as to what we do. But the whole purpose of the Fourth Amendment is to protect against unreasonable searches and seizures. It's not protecting against all searches and seizures. And over the years, the U.S. Supreme Court, which we generally, and I was on the Court of Criminal Appeals for 6 years. I was in the private, not private. I was in private practice for a couple of years, but I was in a prosecutor role for 20 years or so, or a little longer, actually about 24 years. And so I had to deal with this all the time. And the question is, what does it mean? What does unreasonable mean? Well, and this is just an overview. Again, this is it focuses upon the reasonable expectation of privacy. Okay. So for instance, and I don't have the case cite, so I can't cite you to it, but I can point you to the rulings. Yes. There was a case in the U.S. Supreme Court at one point where somebody put a tracker on a car. Okay. Well, that was held to be unreasonable. Okay. You can't do that. Now, on the other hand, if I'm doing something in my front yard, or even in my backyard, even though it might be in the curtilage of my home that is protected under the Fourth Amendment, but it's visible to the world and it's clear that I don't really have a reasonable expectation of privacy, then that's not protected. And that's just a fine line you have to go. Now we're talking about in the digital age, man, I don't know how long we got. I mean, it's you're, as you said, you're talking about data that's stored on third-party computers and all over the world. I still think the key to most of our Fourth Amendment jurisprudence is going to be the reasonable expectation of privacy, and that's so. If I take a picture and it's on my phone, and I'm not sending it to anybody. I'm not, do I have a reasonable expectation of privacy? Maybe so, even though it may be stored in Chicago on a server, so, that's just, that's kind of a general, I know that's general, but that's sort of my thoughts on where we are. Oh, and by the way, I also meant to say this earlier, that our jurisprudence in Alabama is limited by what the U.S. Supreme Court says. Okay. It's limited in the sense of that's the floor. Now we can go further based on our own constitution, but generally, historically, we have been, if you look at U.S. Supreme Court jurisprudence on Fourth Amendment search and seizure, you're generally going to see what our state's doing in most states.
And so they've dealt with Terry stops, and
Yeah.
I tell you the biggest one that so right now you can't buy cannabis products unless it's in a drink. Now what did that do? Well, since the 2018 Farm Bill, you've been able to have smokable cannabis that was sold at the gas station, which did away with the number one way that police officers BS their way into getting into your car or your house, and that's, Brandon, I believe I smell marijuana. So do I, Harry. Let's kick the door down. So,
yeah.
Anyway, I thought that was a significant change in the law, and we better start building rehab facilities or quadrupling the size of this mega prison they have in store for us. So anyway, along those same lines, one of my colleagues down here, Mr. Hadley, there was information given to the sheriff's department that a particular VIN number on this car that he and his father had been putting together from things they got in the junkyard as a father-son project for about the last decade. So anyway, a deputy sheriff that he was actually representing in a civil case got a warrant from one of our judges, and the judge claimed, well, I don't know what the judge claimed. The judge signed the warrant, and it's my understanding that claimed not to know that it was for his home. And instead of there being a big witch hunt about that, of course, Mr. Hadley's out his Camaro, and nobody's the wiser. So there's all kind of search and seizures that went on right here. They stole one of my colleagues' cars, and the circuit Stankowski ordered them to bring it back. Well, what the hell are they going to do? Go to Oklahoma with a maybe we get deputized under OSADEFT and we'd have some reason to be there as a federal agent. No, you can't go get something from Oklahoma.
Yeah. Is that a pending case?
I think it's over with. Let's see.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's up in there anymore. So, speaking of
Yeah.
search and seizure, does everyone know what's going on right now with John Bolton? Speaking of one guy who never thought he'd get raided by the FBI. So
I saw a headline. That was all. I hadn't had time today to
former
to look at
national
news.
security advisor. What else was he? Hey, Brandon, you got to unmute your mic. I muted you. I'm sorry, and I can't unmute you. I think you got to hit the mute button. So the press and Reuters in particular, everybody's staking out. Everybody's staking out his office. Nobody really knows where. These are all the headlines right now. FBI searches home of Trump critic John Bolton. Let's see, he was an American attorney, diplomat, Republican consultant, political commentator. He served as the 25th United States ambassador to the United Nations, the 26th United States National Security Advisor, and he's 76 years old.
My understanding, Harry, is they're looking for classified documents that may be in his possession. Since we raided Trump's house, we found classified documents there. We raided Joe Biden's house. We found classified documents there. We won't even get into Hillary Clinton's, at-home server she had when she was Secretary of State. This thing with people taking some of their work home in a classified document, it's getting a little bit old here. It's happened more than one time. I kind of think poor Bolton doesn't get actually charged with anything, but it is a weird look.
The guys, this is anything but normal. Anybody that acts like this is normal is certainly in a coma. So,
and let me say this too. I think y'all are talking politics, and I really need to make sure you understand I'm not taking a position on anything political here. It's just strictly all I can really talk about is our court and what the campaign. Which I'm not saying I disagree or agree. I'm just saying just for the record. Just making clear that our job is to stay out of politics as best we can and just try to focus on what the law says.
All right,
and
let's talk
about. We might have a topic or two here that may be just between me and Harry. And Judge, you probably just need to nod along.
Sure. And that's why I'm saying that. I just want to make it clear that I'm not involved in that one. So
let's just talk a little bit about the technology involved in all this. So there's a company called Clearview AI, and they scraped all these images illegally from Facebook, YouTube. Anytime you posted something,
if you have it on Facebook, it's out there in the public.
No, it violates their terms of service for somebody to download it without your permission. Okay, so it violated all these terms of service of Google and everybody else. So we can't use it commercially. So guess what we come up with? We'll sell it to the government, right? So anyway, it's not funny. But one of the people involved in the proliferation of this software and everything actually is from right here in Alabama. You may know her. She's from over in the Tuscaloosa area. Jessica Medeiros Garrison.
Yeah, she's been in D.C. now for a decade.
Well, she's been in D.C. since Luther Strange became the senator during the fruit basket turnover of the Jeff Sessions exodus, remember? So anyway, she goes to work for him, and then she hooks up with Clearview AI, and then she becomes their lead lobbyist, and they go gangbusters. Everybody in the whole country wants Clearview AI. So along with Clearview AI, we have the flock camera system, and they actually brag on their website about how many people in Alabama have them. And of course, this is all, if you go to the Alabama Sheriff's Association conference, or I think right now it's the Association of County Commissions of Alabama, they have a big booth there. And so anyway, as far as, you know, all of these things being recorded, you see, we can't see them even though they're recorded on a public camera because of something extra versus lanyap. And that was, you know, that's it is just,
Again,
it's the
that's
lay of the
probably
law.
something we can't talk about, as this probably could be before the court.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
In the future.
If it's anything, I'll say it this way: anything,
That-
kind of what I was kind of thinking we'd be talking about is like, you know, maybe general law like we did, or about our court and, you know, what we do, that sort of thing. And I'd be glad to answer, but I can't really get into.
okay. Well, I'm just telling you,
of
this is
all
what
that,
this
yeah.
is what their website says they do, and it's all over Alabama.
I'm sure.
And there
Sure,
are
Again, that might be before the court at some point in the future.
That's right.
Um,
I can't. I wouldn't want to have to recuse in any cases based on anything that I unwittingly learned. I'll put it that way. So,
This
but
is
yeah,
good. Could you talk for a few moments about, you know, what the, you know, how the court works? I mean, most
Yeah.
people, they go to court and, you know, and then there's some sort of appeal. How does a appeal work, and where does
Yeah.
it go? How does it come
Yeah.
to you, and that sort of thing? I think the general
Yeah.
public probably
Sure.
isn't aware of all that.
Sure, and I'll be glad to. And now let me just say this too, Mr. Steele.
Yes, sir.
You may know all this. So I
I know
hope
a
I'm
little
not.
bit.
I'm not. Yeah. So I don't want to sound like I'm
No, go
instructing
ahead.
you on something you already know. But so I spent most of my career in what I call in the trenches, in the trial courts. Okay, either as a private practice attorney or as a prosecutor, and we just, you know, we tried cases and we had juries. And I love, you know, I mean, it's a small circuit, Pickens, Fayette, and Lamar County. All of us are very rural over here. And so I spent the bulk of my career doing that. Okay. When I got on the appellate court, you know, obviously things are different. And a lot of people think, okay, I lost my case at trial in Fayette County Circuit Court, so I'm going to appeal it for a new trial in Montgomery. And that's not what happens. As again, I know you probably both know that, but I know you know that for sure.
Yeah, a lot of the
Yeah.
the watchers, the viewers,
Yeah.
they really don't. You
Yeah,
know.
that's right. And that's what I wanted to kind of give a little. So what you do is, though, you know, you don't go down to Montgomery for a new trial. Like, we don't take evidence. We don't see witnesses. We don't interrogate witnesses on the Supreme Court. You know, if somebody appeals a case from Pickens County, then the appellant will file a brief through their attorney with our court. It'll be, you know, sometimes it can be quite long with all the attachments. The record can be very long. I had a case when I was on the Court of Criminal Appeals that had 14,000 pages in the whole volume of the record and the briefs and everything. And so we take that and then we go through all of that. Sometimes we set it for oral arguments where the attorneys come in, like on the U.S. Supreme Court, and they argue their issues to us. And then essentially what I tell people is what we're doing is we're trying to see if you got it right. Did the trial judge get it right? And if the trial judge got it right, we just affirm it. And so that's it. If he didn't get it right, we think he didn't, we'll reverse it and usually send it back for more hearings or a new trial. And so you don't come down here and have more testimony and basically a new trial. You may get a new trial, but that trial's still going to be back in Pickens or Fayette County or Conecuh County or wherever. And so in our court system, we have the Alabama Supreme Court, which is where I sit now, but I was on one of the intermediate appellate courts, the Court of Criminal Appeals. There's also a Court of Civil Appeals. Court of Criminal Appeals and Civil Appeals have 5 judges each. Court of Criminal Appeals, it deals with every single criminal appeal in the state, with misdemeanor to capital murder. Okay. And now the Court of Civil Appeals doesn't deal with every single, you know, they don't filter out every single appeal on the civil side through the Court of Civil Appeals. They hear things like workers' compensation cases, appeals that are under $50,000 at issue. You have a lot of divorce DR work, and parental rights terminations, that sort of thing comes up to juvenile court, but then ultimately, whoever loses at that level can petition the Alabama Supreme Court for to hear it. There are some appeals that come directly to our court from civil cases, depending on the size of the case. And ultimately, that's the way the system works. You have your trial court level, and then the appellate court level, and it's one of those situations where it takes a little time at both levels, but we try to do our best to get those cases out on an efficient basis. So that's just kind of a general overview of what we do.
So I would just throw in here that I don't know that I've ever done an appellate case,
really?
An appeal to the Court of Criminal Appeals, but I do a lot of DR work, and what people need to understand is that record is what you get to consider, that the transcript, and the thing that always the one that you hate to get in return is when they defer to the judge who heard the case under the Ori tennis rule, and I go,
right. I know.
So, all the facts and all that stuff I put up there. Nope, because the judge that heard it probably knows who was telling them the truth. So anyway,
right. Well, that is important. I'm glad you mentioned that, because that Ori tennis rule, and for your viewers, it just means that the judge or even the judge in the Ori tennis rule heard the case and decided what the facts were. Generally, in a jury trial, the judge is supposed to, decide what the law is, and the jury decides what the facts are. Is he guilty or innocent, or is there, were they liable for some car wreck, and how much the damages are? They find the facts. But sometimes, like in a divorce case, like you're talking about, the judge makes all those findings of fact. Right. And we, as an appellate court, we don't get to see the person testify. We don't get to hear the person testify. We don't get to see whether they're licking their lips, or they're, or they're shifty-eyed, or whatever, look like they're lying, or whatever.
Brandon always looks like he's lying. Look at him right now. He looks like he's lying.
I don't know if I'd say that.
Brandon, you never got away with jack shit when you were a little kid, did you? Look how guilty he looks, even when he's innocent. Anyway, go ahead. But
that's something we're limited by on appeal. We can't go back and redo the facts. I mean, the only time we can do that is if there just wasn't any evidence to support it. If that's the case, but generally credibility of witnesses and that sort of thing. We had a case at one point during the COVID era on the Court of Criminal Appeals where. And as I recall, I dissented in the case, but it had to do with a witness who was masked, and my opinion on that, in that case was that if a witness is masked, you can't judge credibility like you need to. So anyway, you're right. The Ori tennis rules binds us on appeal a lot.
That's somebody tying your damn shoestrings together is what I call it. I don't know how
that's
exactly
to
describe that sabotage
right.
of my case, but it's a good default. So let's talk a little about its election season, Brandon.
Yep.
And so far we know there's Jay Mitchell, Catherine Green Robertson, and Pam Casey. We've had Pam on. Jay is too busy raising money. Catherine Green Robertson, you talked to her at the Middle Alabama Republic. Go ahead.
Yeah, she laid out, her. I mean, she's been with Marshall since Marshall was, just after he was appointed. And so she's been part of, Marshall reworking the AG's office. And so she's making the argument that her knowledge of the AG's office, being the deputy AG, and that she's the most pro-law enforcement AG possible, makes her the most qualified and the best candidate to be the future AG. I'm sure Jay and Pamela would, dispute that, but that's why we have elections.
Hey, and hopefully you get her on here and we can grill her about all of it. So everybody knows about the whole bunker, the children found in the bunker in Bibb County, Centerville.
Yeah, and I need to really stay out of this as
Yeah,
far
I
as probably
guarantee
don't
you
even
that
need to
was
listen
being
to what.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't need to
so-
listen to anything about that if
well,
it's possible.
no. We're not going to talk about that. What we're going to talk
Yeah,
about
yeah.
is the history, and this is why I like that you're a history guy, because
Mhm.
I was actually unaware that rape was a capital crime for a long
Long
It was
time
at one
in
point.
Alabama.
Yes.
So the legislative history. So anyway, a bunch, and look, he's one of my legislators. He's a friend of mine. I don't particularly like the fact that we came up with this law while there was a crisis. Okay, but besides
But
that,
in Matt Simpson's defense, he had previously proposed this, but it didn't go anywhere in the previous legislative session. Then all of a sudden there was the Bibb County crisis, and it's like, hey, I have a bill. And it went from being something that we were like, well, yeah, death penalty for child, whatever, to, oh, why can't we execute these Bibb County people?
I don't know, but why would they leave a victim alive if it's the death penalty? I mean, I know.
Well, again, like in the Bibb County people, this wasn't a one-time thing. Their business, and I know the judge can't talk on this, their business was leasing out these children for, obviously immoral purposes. We won't go into detail on a public podcast.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about let's talk about
go
the
ahead.
history of it real quick. So 1807 capital punishment is established under the Mississippi Territory, and a person that is convicted of rape shall suffer death. 1841, the penalty is reduced to life in prison. 1852 to 1975, death penalty is reinstated and redefined. And so that was the period where I was actually talking to the former DA of Mobile County, and he was like, "Oh yeah, man, we used to execute them all the time back in my day." So, the lax execution for rape was in Alabama was in 1959, and then 1977, the Supreme Court bans the death penalty for rape. The United States Supreme Court case Coker versus Georgia ruled that the death penalty is grossly disproportionate for the crime of rape and therefore unconstitutional under the Eighth Amendment. There's some other reaffirmations in Kennedy versus Louisiana, and then in 2005, the legislature attempts to reintroduce the death penalty.
Yeah, that was Matt Simpson's bill that did not get moved this past session.
Yeah. And let me say this, if it's let me ask this if it's possible, because I don't want to get into the policy discussions because I can't. If there's anything else that you want to ask me about, I'll be glad to go ahead and do it, and then I can step off, and then y'all can talk about.
Then we can talk about all the controversy.
Yeah. I
we do the controversial stuff without the judge here.
I don't want to limit y'all. I feel like I feel a little uncomfortable even hearing y'all talk about this stuff. Yeah.
You were on the Court of Criminal Appeals.
Yes, sir.
Which I think, according to most, metrics, is the busiest state appellate court anywhere in the country.
Yes.
I know we originally had the Alabama Supreme Court, and then because those guys back in the day were getting overworked, we added a middle appellate court that took some of the load off. It handled some appeals, and then it went on to the Supreme Court. And then at some point, in the 20th century, they came back and decided to split that lower court into a court of criminal appeals and a court of civil appeals. And now it seems like we're back to where we were, where the appellate court, at least on paper, is overworked, it appears.
Mm-hmm.
Do we need to add like another layer of appellate judges to decrease that workload some, to maybe give, the Court of Criminal Appeals and the Court of Civil Appeals, or however?
I think I would say this. Obviously that's a question for the legislature, but I mean, having come from just recently from the Court of Criminal Appeals, it is definitely, we always felt like we were the busiest court. Now the Court of Civil Appeals says they are busier than we are, and they may be, but we know I had 3 full-time staff attorneys working full-time to try to keep up. And but I don't know that adding another layer to the court system would do a whole lot. I think basically the courts that we have can handle it as long as they have enough staff. I mean, I don't think it's any secret. Us as judges or justices ourselves, we can't handle it all by ourselves. I have, at this point where I'm at, I have 2 staff attorneys and 1 law clerk who is an attorney who clerks for a year after law school. But they are the workhorses. They get in there and they, obviously I read everything, but they get in and they do the work, and then they get it to me and I work on it, and then but as long as you've got enough staff, the funding situation is what I think is more of an issue, rather than adding another layer of, it's not bureaucracy, I don't mean that, but adding another layer to the appellate court system. I just think you need to just make sure that they have enough staff. And our clerk's office, man, they are wonderful. They do an outstanding job of managing all this paperwork, because we're fully automated now, online now, away from paper stuff except for prisoner petitions. And so I think that we can manage it, and I'm not saying we always manage it. I mean, I felt like I managed it pretty well when I was on the Court of Criminal Appeals. There are some time delays that might be helped if we had a little more staff, but I'm not begging for more staff at this point. I feel very confident that what I've got right now is enough to handle my load. So I don't know if that answers your question exactly, but I think we got what we need. We just need to make sure we keep pressing forward and make sure that, and as the legislature has in the past and continues to do, that we have the funding we need to have the staff that we need.
On another issue that affects, the appellate courts, Alabama's a pretty pro-death penalty state. When somebody commits some sort of horrible atrocity, kills a child or a police officer, or, kills 5 people.
A lawyer.
Yeah, keep up the courtroom or the post office or whatever. We want to see those people dead. But it seems like, like I've covered recent executions, and we're executing people from stuff that happened in like 2004. And there was one guy was in the 90s. It seems like these things are in the appellate courts for a long time. Is a lot of that mandated by the federal government, that even though Brandon and Harry and the video camera and a police officer saw the person murder the person, that we still have to do all these appeals for the person?
So yeah, and let me also do my disclaimer again. I'm not commenting on the propriety
on any individual case,
right? Any case or any policy. Okay, but let me just give you an overview of how it works. There was, for example, there was a case I prosecuted in 2005, of a young man that killed 2 police officers and a dispatcher in Fayette. Okay. 4-week trial. The murder occurred in 2003. 2005, we tried the case for 4 weeks, conviction, death penalty, and it's been on appeal ever since. But here's what happens. You go, the first step is to the Court of Criminal Appeals. And that takes a little while, because it takes a while for the record. You had a 4-week trial, and the clerk of the court at Fayette County has to gather that record together and get it certified down to Montgomery. Well, that takes a while. The court reporter has to do the transcript. It was 4,000 or 5,000 pages of transcript. So then that case goes to the Court of Criminal Appeals. When they make a decision, then it's appealed, or cert petition, to the Alabama Supreme Court. Okay. And I'm assuming affirmances here just for the purposes of this example. Okay. So let's say the Supreme Court, Alabama Supreme Court affirms it, then they can petition for cert to the U.S. Supreme Court. Well, that takes a while. Okay. Just say a year or two each step. All right. Then they can come back and file a Rule 32 petition, which is a petition to set aside the conviction or sentence under the Alabama Rules of Criminal Procedure. That's in the circuit court. Now, one thing I've found is that there's a lot of those Rule 32 petitions sit in the circuit court for a long time. And that's an issue. So it's not all on appeal. There are some trial courts that don't get to them quickly. So, but then let's just say again, the trial court denies the Rule 32 petition and the death penalty stands. Then they appeal that to the Court of Criminal Appeals, then to the Alabama Supreme Court, and then to the U.S. Supreme Court. Then they come back and file a habeas petition in the federal district court. And then that has to be dealt with at the district court level, then to the circuit. And in the federal system, the appeals courts are circuit courts. So then it's appealed to that, and then it's appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court. Okay. And so you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 levels of appeal, not counting the one level, that'd be 10 really. So it just, with the filing of the Rule 32. So it just takes a while. And those are steps. And again, I'm not commenting on that's a good process, that's a bad process. It's not my place to do that. That's for the legislature to determine. But that you can kind of see, I think, from those steps, how, where the years can pass by.
Yeah. And not to sound like the bleeding heart liberal Republican sitting over here, but we are taking a person's life, Brandon. If it, I mean, I'd like for there to be an express lane for the person that killed my mama too, but we're taking somebody's life, and we got to go through the proper procedures. And if that takes 10 years of feeding them cornbread and corn po or whatever slurry they're getting fed in our jails or whatever, so be it. Anyway, I think we got to treat everybody the same, regardless of how heinous their crime may or may not have been. Well, Justice McCool,
yes.
How about you cut us loose, and we can
yes,
get
sir.
over to all the people that we want to plant along the Oregon Trail.
Sounds good. And thank y'all so much for having me, and I appreciate this opportunity. It's good to talk with you guys.
And I hope I hope I never have to practice in front of you, because everybody gets everything right down here in Baldwin County every time, don't they, Brandon?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well,
I
thank you
hear
so
you.
much.
I hear you. Thank
Thanks
you.
for coming
Bye-bye.
on.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye.
All right. Well, that was a lot of fun. But yeah, I don't think we can start talking about burying people along the Oregon Trail. I did have a bonus question for him, though. What are the 2 TV shows that we could never remake? Do you know what they are? The Dukes of Hazzard and the Andy Griffith Show. Do you know why?
Well,
Because it doesn't fit our warrior cop narrative, right?
well, you probably can't do Amos and Andy again.
Oh, that either. So, here's we were about to really get into some politics. So, remember, the Butterfly Man said he was going to be the RNC chairman.
Well, no, there were reports that he was interested in that, but when Trump decided that Gruters was going to be the guy, I mean, John Wall and everybody else got on board, and we were for Gruters.
Yeah, there we go.
And so today, Gruters became, they were in Atlanta, and I think they most unanimously voted Gruters.
It's almost as laughable as Tony Soprano's job. He's a butterfly farmer up on the mountain.
Someone has to raise the butterflies, and
Jebediah.
it's John Wall.
John Jebediah Wall. All right, let's see so we got the municipal elections are going on. Brandon, do you have? I have a Jeff Boyd hat that I got just for you. I'll be giving it to you next time I see you, because I don't wear hats.
You can't make endorsements.
No. It was a free. This is just merch people gave me, and I figured you need a hat.
You can get a Tony McKinnon hat too.
But I also have a Wallace. I keep stuff. Do you notice the Harry Steele for mayor? That's vintage right there. That's gonna be worth a lot of money one day. And then I got Josh Brown over there. his sign. And of course, the Danny Who campaign all has to do with the city of Orange Beach. And yes, that's our logo on the back of that. So the big news this week is that, and of course, the police chief who was involved in this case has resigned. The fireman who was, they're all retiring. The lieutenant who was there that day, he's retiring because of all the things that happened in this Danny Williams case. Hilariously, the commander of the Aaliyah Air Wing who flew that day and didn't record any of the video, or if he did, he threw it away. He's retiring. And then, of course, the Gulf Shores Police Department can't be outdone by Orange Beach, so they went and bought all this equipment. Does it really matter if you have the equipment if you don't use it when someone goes missing? So anyway, the recording of the cannon at a coastal getaway resource building was leaked, and the audio is up on the Lanyap website. I suggest everyone go watch it. And we don't have time for this. I'm going to share the link up in here. So I love that he used my word cabal, because that's exactly what I've been saying is going on in Orange Beach for years. There's a slimy little cabal.
But you think he's in the cabal, and he thinks the cabal is after him.
He thinks the cabal's after him. That's the 3D chess part of Tony Kent. The only smart thing he's ever done is cast aspersions on this cabal that put him in power. You think he's in a cabal,
and he thinks you're in a cabal after him.
So you like this? Ever heard of a cabal? A cabal? What? No, of course not. So yeah, Tony Kennan knows others. So yeah, so here's Josh Brown. He launched his Minette mayoral campaign, and he actually has a town hall Q&A where he talks about issues as opposed to going around town and harassing people about Josh's sign being in their yard. And by the way, anybody who votes for Bob Wills in this election is a real idiot. Ruthie Campbell, the long-term council person, and Ruthie and I started on the Bowen County United Board together in 1998. So I've known her for a long time public servant down there in Robertsdale. Man, if she doesn't win that election, there's definitely some hanky-panky going on down there. And then, of course, Jeff Boyd. I really don't know what the difference is politically between Boyd and Mayor Kennan down in Orange Beach, except Boyd doesn't go around dragging women around by the hair of the head.
I do think a lot of people are happy with the way, Orange Beach is growing and economically, and, more rooftops, more condos. They may like the economy associated with Orange Beach and the way it's been managed the last 8 years. They just have certain issues with some of the negative things. Maybe, the FBI was investigating your mayor for, possible cocaine smuggling.
Yeah, nothing to see here, Brandon.
Death or two.
All of his co-conspirators mysteriously drowned. Nobody saw
your mayor not be, hitting people in the face at, nightclubs. Whatever was going on with the naked people out there, at his office, whether that was his wife or not his wife or whatever that was, that's not a good look. I mean, I'm just saying, again, if people just like Tony Kennan and, boys are going to be boys, okay, but.
Or absolute power corrupts absolutely, especially when you got a whole damn police and fire department that do whatever you say. And when they get a call where you're the supposed perp, you talk to them through the door and they turn and go away. Do you think if they got a DV call at my house that they wouldn't beat the door off the hinges?
Domestic violence, and they got Brandon running around naked and a woman naked, and I'm dragging her by her hair. Yeah, I mean,
Harry's on a 24-hour hold in the Bowen County Jail. No doubt.
I mean, if it's Harry's house, they're probably sending the SWAT team.
Exactly. Okay, so meet Randy Ferris, a proven leader, servant at heart, and and he has a new vision for Summerdale. I say let's give him a whirl. Why would we let Billy Joe Underwood's brother run the place and run off all the good cops? I said it, and run off all the good cops. There's a lawsuit going on right now where they claim that the police chief in Summerdale was in. It's a criminal prosecution of him, saying he was in possession of a forged instrument. Do you believe that? I don't. I've seen the evidence. The DA doesn't believe it either. So why are they going forward with their prosecution? Because it's political. Anyway, Randy, I hope you win that election. So let's talk some national politics. So remember last time when we had Rodney on, and he said, I tell you, Harry, that was just historic that they all got together. And so do you know what Putin said this morning? Yeah, we're probably not meeting with Zelensky. So,
Well, I mean, I don't know if anything good is going to happen from the negotiations, but we do know what happens if you don't have negotiations. You just keep doing what you're doing and more people get killed. So I do not fault the president in the slightest for attempting to craft a deal here. But it's sort of like when Henry Ford and a whole bunch of rich Americans, took a boat over to Germany and Great Britain and France and tried to talk them into, a shutting World War I down.
Didn't really work. Didn't go their way.
Yeah, it didn't go out. Good turnout. I'm hoping I'm wrong here, but this I don't think Putin is interested in doing a deal that doesn't get him all the land that he wants, and I don't think Zelensky wants to be the go down as the president that economically crippled Ukraine and gave away a third of its territory.
No, he doesn't want to die by polonium poisoning, I'll assure you. Okay, so did you see the South Park thing with the fake?
I did not watch South Park.
Okay, well, I typically don't either, but this was worth a subscription to Paramount Plus on Amazon Prime. So anyway, it was hilarious. I was rolling in the floor, and then this morning, Trump shows up in a hat that says Trump was right about everything, and gets another fake award for landing the FIFA World Cup. It's going to be in New York and New Jersey in 2026.
That'd be cool. Now, I know that, he believes that Trump was right about everything. Well, does he still believe Trump was right when he hired John Bolton the first time?
Yeah, see, that's the problem is when you got a bad track record and everyone that you hired, you then say, oh, no, they're the most villainous piece of shit. Remember, who was the Mad Dog, the general? Maddox?
Yeah, General Mad Dog, until General Mad Dog said, you can't do this because I don't like it.
Boy, you talk about McCool staying the hell out of some politics. I guarantee he wasn't going to touch this. National Guard troops on D.C. streets for Trump's crackdown. We'll start carrying guns. That was 3 hours ago. We don't want anybody out there getting mugged.
I mean, to me, the military ought to carry guns all the time. I don't understand when they're running around on their base without guns. But.
Okay, because it's a police action. It's got nothing to do with fighting the enemy, and they don't need.
And D.C. is a federal territory. I mean, they could police it with armed troops.
Brandon, this is terrifying. This is the 1984 podcast.
I mean, Rome didn't have civilian police; they had the troops, and they were the ones that did the order.
Yes, and we're trying not to repeat history. Yes, yeah. Okay. So Ivy is ready to lend our support if needed, if they need more troops in D.C. And anyway, we talked about.
I'd rather do a deployment in Washington D.C. than Afghanistan again. Okay. I'm sure most of the Guard would say the same.
So. Can you tell me, is this going forward with this redistricting in California and Texas? Is it just a bunch of lawyers going to get rich filing a bunch of paperwork?
I think a lot of lawyers are going to get rich, but we're trying to influence this next election. We can create a few more Republican districts in Texas by redistricting. California will respond by, they will, jiggy with the districts out there so that, a few existing California Republicans get replaced by California Democrats. It's all a partisan effort to, rig this next congressional election, because it's easier to switch presidents than it is to flip the Congress, because there's only like 20 districts out of the 435 that, can swing. I mean, I'm in the 3rd congressional district. I mean, if a Democrat split the atom and figured out how to, feed all the starving in Africa, with that D behind their name, they can't get elected in the 3rd. They can't get elected in the 4th. They can't get elected in your 1st district. All the Republicans are, crowded into these 3 districts in Alabama. We had the federal court had to jiggy with that to, make these 3 districts completely unwinnable for anybody but the Republican nominee. And then you have the 2 districts that should go to a Democrat 90% of the time. And then the 1 district, the 5th, that could swing potentially.
All right, so what's going to happen? So let's talk about Tuberville's initial plans include 5 priorities: building new trade schools, adding more power plants, attracting new manufacturing plants, building more prisons, and cutting taxes, including eliminating state income tax. Holy shit, I can't wait to hear the wizardry behind all this. Is he going to charge tolls for people to use our roads or something?
I love all my conservative friends that want to be like Florida and eliminate the income tax. Do you know how much we would have to jack up the sales and property tax where we could eliminate the income tax? It would be, I mean, anybody who actually owns their own house and business, no. You do not want to go there.
All I can say is it sounds like
I mean, I do think there are ways where we can restructure education and state government where we could decrease our income tax.
Okay, well, I don't want to cut money making people smarter. So here's another one. That's not going to happen in the South. At Senator Tuberville slams NFL over addition of male cheerleader. They've had male cheerleaders at Auburn for years. Is it because they're gay male cheerleaders? I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of think of the headline Auburn cheerleaders where, it's guys that, could probably bitch press me or you. They lift the girls up and, you've got full pants on, they're not out dancing and, pretending like they're actual, there's no dancing involved.
Okay, so it's got everything to do with how they present themselves.
Yeah, it's how you present it. And the way this is presented in Minnesota is like,
okay, so this is just,
I know you're a liberal state. This just looks bad for the NFL.
Okay, well, so we going on a Carnival cruise ship anytime? Disturbing video captures a moment while Carnival cruise ship brawl breaks out over chicken tenders. You need to go watch this. There's wigs flying everywhere.
Anywhere where people are consuming alcohol, you need to probably get out of the room.
So, so another one that I'm glad the judge isn't here for. Alabama sheriff walks back threat to identify judge he criticized for despicable rulings. That's part of being a state constitutional officer is you win some and you lose some. And outing a judge and being critical, that's the kind of shit to get your ass whipped over here in Baldwin County. If that judge finds you, you better take that badge off, sheriff, if you're gonna talk. If you're gonna, if you're a badass, take the badge off and talk about the man.
Yeah, I would like
that
the
badge,
judges
you cowardly
and the
sack of shit up on your horse.
To conduct themselves in a professional manner and publicly trashing either one of them, not a good look.
Yeah, well, hey,
Even if the sheriff's right, it's not a good look.
I suggest he stay on his side of the bay and I'll stay on mine. So a big thank you to Nathan Cox with 68 Ventures for sharing why a few lessons learned as a serial entrepreneur at this board's executive roundtable. So, of course, you know who 68 Ventures is. They're the largest developer in Alabama. And if you want to check out, you see this green part right here? See, this is the divergence of 59 and 31. And those are old Indian trails. You know why? Because that's the headwaters of Fish River. Who in their right mind would try to put 50,000 homes in the headwaters of Fish River? Oh, that's right. It's the genius who's speaking to the Mobile Chamber yesterday morning. So anyhow, another little interesting road bump in all the great development that we're so happy to have here in Baldwin County. Magnolia Springs hotspot marked with no trespassing signs. So there was a lawsuit. The city went in and put this boardwalk through, and there's an ownership dispute. And so now the people who are out of state have put up a fence saying, yeah, you can't come down here and enjoy the public access to the river anymore because a bunch of damn lawyers screwed everything up. The other thing that I wanted to kick around with you, do you remember this AU president faces matrix questions from faculty? Speaking about Auburn University and their what is it called? The McCrary Institute for Cybersecurity, which was, of course, created by Alabama Power Company. And then, of course,
power under the bus.
Yeah. So also, I think I know what they did for that $1 million, Brandon. They came up with a new idea where we could claim 7 more national championships. This sounds like something harebrained bullshit that Pitts and Perkins would come up with. What do you think about
I was an Auburn season ticket holder in the 2004 season. I really do think we were probably the best team in the country. We were certainly better than Oklahoma and should have got to play USC. Although we know, USC was cheating before the rules allowed you to cheat.
Alabama and USC were definitely cheaters, and Oregon and Auburn and Mississippi.
Yeah, anybody who plays football seriously knows the rules, but now there are no rules.
Well,
we decided to have 7 national champions. The 83, I kind of thought we should have been national champions. Now the 93 team, we were on probation going into the season, so we knew there was no postseason. We knew we had a new coach, so it was like, yeah.
It was backyard football. It was we just made shit up on the back of our hands.
Yeah, and Terry Bowden showed up with an offensive philosophy that SEC defensive coordinators had no idea what to do with the first time they saw it. Because, back then we've been playing smash mouth football down here, where you had a fullback.
Wishbone.
And you had a
power eye.
Yeah, power eye.
Yeah.
We're going to run it on first down. We're going to run it on second down. If it's 3rd and 3 or less, hey, we're going to run it on 3rd down and we're going to knock your teeth out. And then all of a sudden, Terry's showing out here with 4 wide receivers, and it's like, what? Does the 4th linebacker drop into coverage? What do we do here? Now everybody comes out in nickel.
Right.
So, it wouldn't be the deal that it was. But in that we fired ran off or he resigned, poor coach died because NCAA was all over us and we were on 60 minutes for paying players, which now everybody does.
We're just ahead of the curve, man.
That Auburn team just ran through the SEC, but couldn't go to the SEC championship game or a bowl because of the probation. Was that the best team in the country? Now, it'd be kind of cool because, well, basically, we're saying that Terry Bowden should have won the national title that year instead of Bobby Bowden. But
I'll drink to that. So, did you see this one? Auburn just claimed victory over Napoleon in the Louisiana Purchase. and of course,
yeah, we need to claim that Florida Panhandle while we're claiming stuff.
So anyway,
that definitely should be with us.
So remember how I told you that everybody's down at the Predator Beach Resort and they're handing out all these local government institute awards to county commissioners? Only Auburn University would give a county commissioner something saying that they learned something. So anyway, this is Auburn's. Just so you know how scary this is, that they're doing business with these scumbags at Matrix. Auburn's McCrary Institute and Oak Ridge National Laboratory to partner on first regional cybersecurity center to protect the nation's electrical grid. I mean, these guys aren't, they're
if they can protect the electrical grid, I'm all for it.
So, Brandon, what's the only thing that saves Auburn? Our one saving grace is that Tuscaloosa has a Democratic mayor, and they're ranked the second most dangerous college town in America, which means Auburn wins again by default. Not because we did anything better than them. It's just because they're not as good as us. Do you like that?
Yeah, I mean, Tuscaloosa has had a crime problem for a long time. I mean, we had the basketball team, killing a girl outside a club, a couple of years ago.
Allegedly.
Well, I mean, the player did kill the girl.
I know.
Now, how many players should have been indicted as co-conspirators is something you can argue about. But, that the one player definitely shot the girl through the car, is undisputed. I don't know if we've had the trial yet or not. But.
Okay, so I think the only way that we can show this is if we watch it so that it's not a copyright issue, because we're making commentary about it as we listen to it. Does that make sense? So let's just listen to a little bit of what Mayor Kennan has to say for himself.
Hit you. That Paula, has he ever hit you?
That has never happened. As I've stated previously, didn't happen that night. I don't see that ever happening. And I don't know what she saw. I can't speculate about what she saw other than what she said in her phone call. But it had nothing to do with us.
I feel like Mel Gibson's about to raise a sword and do something very prolific when I hear that music. How does that music make you feel, Brandon? Comfortable? Uncomfortable?
I applaud 1819 News for getting the interview. Who made the decision that they needed to add tunes to the did we add the tunes, or did they do that?
No, that's them. That's their. I
don't know why you're taking a serious news interview of a political figure and his wife, talking about domestic violence of all things, and you add a musical score to this like this is Star Wars. I mean, I'm like,
and then the
I know there's an element of entertainment to news, but I'm a little bit old school, and do we add Beethoven here or Mozart? I mean, no, just no.
Our outro music today is going to be the Flight of the Valkyries, just for you, Brandon. All right, dude. Well, look, we're at an hour and 10 minutes. It's been fun and it's been real.
We scared poor Justice McCool.
Oh yeah. Hey, but you know what? At least he was willing to come on and talk to us, and he was willing to talk about the judicial system, and that's what we're looking for.
He was a really good guest. He told us a lot about the court system.
Absolutely. So anyway, I will see you later this weekend when we do we're going to start our Danny Who podcast series. Hopefully have something up for you guys to consider before you go vote on Tuesday. So we will see y'all next time. Thanks, Brandon.
Okay, thanks.